All right, we're live. Day 477 of going live. Today, we're adding to our comparable sales list, which means we are having to look for properties that are coming on a market. And just so you know, what I'm looking on Redfin is these properties are 4 beds, single family homes, and on Redfin for less than 3 days. Okay. Oh, before I do that, new podcast alert. Everybody, if you have been following the Birmingham market and you want to continue learning more, make sure you check out our latest podcast with Daisy Sebastian. I mean, she's such a go-getter when it comes to property management, leasing. She just literally on a podcast told you all about the top markets in the Birmingham area, surrounding areas for families. Great podcast. She talks about the process, and she's young. She's a hustler. I mean, just learn from her, because I think it's rare to find people that care, especially in property management. All right, so check that out. That's going to be a good one. All right, so back to this. So today, why we're looking at properties coming on the market is because we want to understand what's happening in the market, right? Because if we're pursuing the BRRRR strategy, right, and that stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat, that strategy is heavily contingent on you getting your ARV, or your after repair value, correct. Why is that, right? Let's use an example so we can explain why it's so scalable. When you have a property, let's say you buy a property for $20,000 and you spend $50,000 renovating that home, and you are now able to make that property worth $100,000. Well, now all of a sudden you created $30,000 of equity, right? Because you had spent 20, you spent another 50, and then you made it worth 100. That's 70 grand is what you invested, and then that $30 grand to get to the 100 on top. That's what allows you to go and get back out all your capital. What does that mean? What does that mean? You can go get a debt service coverage ratio loan for 70% of your home's value pretty easily. So if your home's worth 100 grand, you can take back out $70,000 in the form of loan proceeds. So essentially, you get back out all your initial invested capital without being taxed on it, because it's loans. So now you take the same 70 grand, right? Same 70 grand, and put it towards the next deal. And you can rinse it over and over and over. And that's the beauty of the BRRRR strategy, because what's the alternative, right? The alternative is you saving money from your full-time job, little by little by little, and using that towards a 20% down payment. That's why it's a little bit slower. Not saying you can't be successful doing it, but it's a little bit slower versus using the same pile of cash over and over again using the BRRRR strategy. So what is that strategy heavily dependent on? You're tired? You want to go sleep? You want to lay on the bed? Maybe in a little bit? Okay. You listen to mommy, okay? Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. So for our garage, what we're noting down now is noting down all the details about this home that I just found. And in general, this property, I mean, there's some wallpaper I could probably peel off and repaint. Yeah, I'll get rid of that. The floor looks okay. Doesn't even look like it needs to be refinished. This bathroom is pretty modern. One modern bathroom. Let's see what else we've got in here. That's a pretty small kitchen, if you ask me. So some families, especially going after larger families, they might not love the cabinet space. Okay, good to know. So for the most part, the bathrooms look pretty above average and does not need any more renovation work. Great. So now I'm gonna break down in the comments, right? So this is a no garage, no basement, no HOA, above average kitchen and bathrooms, modern enough that we don't need renovations, but need more cabinet space in kitchen. And then what we also need is paint work needed for 1/3 of home to peel off wallpaper to make it more neutral. And flooring looks good, might not need any work. Okay, great. Now that I have these notes about the condition of the home, if I ever see another property out here that's a 3-bedroom property, maybe similar square footage, 16 to 1900 square feet, where I can potentially convert it into a 4-bedroom property, well, then all of a sudden I feel a lot more comfortable about using this comp as my property, assuming it's in the same neighborhood, right? Because what's a perfect comp, right? Perfect comp is if you are buying a property right next to it as a 3-bedroom using this property, assuming it sells as a comp. And it has the same square footage, same lot size, same year built, same finishes. You get the point. That would be a perfect comp, but that's never the case, right? If you even just go across this big road or this park, I mean, now all of a sudden you're in completely different neighborhoods, right? Because it's a really street by street type of market. You go across creeks, natural borders such as those, you're also going to be struggling to find, or you're adding to the risk of your ARV for that comp that you're using to justify the value to be wrong. Because you got to think about it, right? When you're getting that loan proceeds, so this home is in Bellevue Heights. Let me write that one down because that's the closest neighborhood there. Bellevue Heights. And that's the property that I get to see every single day. That's the property I'm adding every day to the list. So when I'm looking at this property, I'm really thinking about, hey, what is going on here? And what's going on with these purchase prices, right? So going forward, here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to underwrite this property as is today using the current details to show you why or why not this is the deal. And I already know this is not a deal because it's $210,000. That's usually not the purchase price that we're looking for to cash flow in this market, right? Because if I go to affordablehousing.com and I go to the owner section and I go to the market rent estimator, plug in the address, plug in bedroom count, you can see that the average rent for 25 units that are 4 bedrooms in a 1.7 mile radius is $1,329. $1,329 is not that high. Okay. All right. So now going forward, here's what we got. Our asking price is $209,900. Our rehab here, let me delete this multiple by 2 because that was from yesterday's scenario. If I go to my rehab calculator and I pull up a few things, so let's say we don't need to renovate any of the bathrooms, so I can zero these out except for the toilets. Let's you replace the toilets with high pressure flush toilets. I probably want to put in some cabinets. Let's see, linear feet. Maybe add in 30 linear feet. Probably 20. 20 more linear feet of cabinets. Don't need to refresh any of the floors. I am going to put in 1,800. So I'll do 1,800 divided by 3. So I'm assuming 600 square feet needs a new paint job for the wallpaper that I'm peeling down. I got $500 for some landscaping. And then I got $1,500 for the roof. So that gives me a total rehab number of about 10 grand. Okay, that's pretty fair. All right, I got my rents for $1,329. And now I'm going to get my expenses here now for $85 on the property taxes from the Redfin payment calculator. Obviously, you should double check with your county assessor records before you close so you can get the accurate number. And then for my insurance estimate, it says that it's 163 right here. So I'm going to multiply that by 1.2 to add a 20% premium. I'm adding a 20% premium to the insurance estimate because I'm assuming that that's for a primary residence estimate. So when you are using a property as an investment property, in general, the insurance company is going to view that as a riskier asset. So they're going to charge you more money. So that's why I'm adding a 20% premium. For my other expenses, I got my rents are set aside for rents. I set aside for maintenance every single month. Right, I just got a HVAC stolen the other day, and it was about $5,000 to replace it and add it in a cage. I've got roof replacement bills for $15,000 for our properties in Arizona. So if you don't set aside money every single month for these expenses, you will be underestimating your expenses because you overestimate your profitability. right? Don't be that person that misses out on these expenses when these are real expenses that you know are coming your way. This is money that you should be setting aside in a separate account no matter what. Okay. Then I got 10% set aside for my property management, and I got 5% for vacancy expenses. So that's assuming that some property is going to be empty at some point, no matter what. All right. All right. So now I got 25% down for my down payment on this property. If I do B4 times my 25% down, that's a 52.5K down payment with a 2.5% closing cost. I got $10,000 for my renovations. If I am financing this property, my financing amount is going to be B4 minus my down payment. So I'll be financing 157 grand at 7.5% interest rate. And so if I rent this property out as a 4-bedroom for $1,329, I will be negative cash flow $385 a month. That's a negative 6.8% cash and cash return, assuming you bought this property for $209,900 with a $11,000 rehab, just using round numbers here. Okay. So, like I said, this is not ideal for me. Again, this is not investment advice. I'm not soliciting any investments on this call. I'm not suggesting that 10% is the price that you should be looking for. But you have to understand what's your criteria. What are you looking to accomplish with your portfolio? And how are you diversifying your strategy for your portfolio? And that's only something that you will understand about your unique circumstances and your unique goals with your investment advisors. I'm just simply showing y'all how to adjust the leverage to get to a deal that achieves the terms and the conditions that you're looking for. So if I go to, let's say, $100,000, now I'm at 6%, right? I'm still so far off. If I go to 80 grand, great. Now I'm there, 85, 83. So I'm at 83%, not going to achieve 83,000, not going to achieve a 10.1% cash and cash return. Does that mean you're going to get that property for 83 grand when it was listed for 209? Probably not. But at least now you know, and through the repetition and the practice of going through this exercise, that's how you figure out whether or not something is going to be in your favor, or, and if not, what will it take to make it go? And a lot of times, sometimes people don't even understand how to even determine their own criteria. Sometimes people just buy a property just to buy a property, just to say they have rental. So just be careful and stay objective and take emotions out of deal, because, hey, look, let's do one more scenario. Let's say your interest rate drops to 6%, right? Because that's why we've been tracking all the properties that are coming on the market, right? At 6%, now all of a sudden this went to 12.3. So now maybe you're able to afford a $93,000 purchase price, correct? Because you're at 9.9. So your interest rates drop by 1.5 points. You're now at 93 grand, but you're still able to achieve a target return of nearly 10%, because now you're still able to cash for $298 a month. Assuming everything else stays same, you're able to rent it out as a 4-bedroom for $1,329 a month. Right? This interest rate is so important. That's why we're tracking what are these properties coming on the market for. Because if you understand how interest rates work, it's really heavily driven by the interest rate on the 10-year treasury yield. So as you can see over the last year, it's seesawing, right? It's gone down from the peak of 4.7 to the low of 3.6 to like another peak of 4.8 just a couple of days ago. Now, you don't see interest rates in the 8s right now because it's also affected by the spread between the 10-year yield and the 30-year mortgage interest rate. So historically, that spread has been about 1.5 to 2%, but it's gone as high as 3%. And that's why you saw interest rates in like the 8s. That's why it's important. Now that the spread is narrow, you don't see interest rates in 8s, even though we're back to a 12-month high nearly. So that's why you got to track these properties on your market, coming on your market every single day, because if you're using 3-month-old comps from September and October when the interest rates were as lows, but you're buying a property right now that you expect to or you anticipate to complete the renovation in 3-6 months, the comps right now that the appraiser might be using might be from the properties that get sold today, which might be at a lower price in September and October. Big difference. And that could be the difference between you keeping all your capital or getting back out all your capital in a BRRRR strategy, or leaving money in. That's why we're tracking these properties, okay? So my goal for today is that you copy my homework, right? Use the same, analyze the same deal and analyze today using the same spreadsheet. You guys want to copy the spreadsheet? Just go to affordablehousing.io, go to the get deal analysis tool, plug in your name, email, your phone number. That's the fastest way to get a copy spreadsheet. That's how we make a difference together, right? So I hope you all have an amazing Sunday. Spend some quality time with your family and friends today, because that's what life is all about. Hope you really take my advice to heart. You start your own YouTube channel, because at some point someone's going to ask you, hey, why do you think this is a deal? And you can say this, I know that this is a deal because I've been looking at properties for the past 477 days. Might that give you some confidence that you know what you're doing? I certainly hope so. All right. Have an amazing day, everybody. I'll see you all tomorrow for day 478. Have a good one, everybody. I'll see you all tomorrow.